Robert gave a little description of the project that we've been collaborating on. Um, and it goes back to when we were working like on a different project called Metamaps together for like quite a few years. We were working on it a lot between 2012 and 2015 or 16, and this is when we kind of started experimenting with this. Um, I'll share. Which screen did I share? Not that one. Um, this one. So originally, oops, we had these maps which were just graphs that where the whole idea with them is that you would lay out your information and play with your information, and you could create data and nodes, and things were categorized by iconography, and it's all kind of selectable and movable and stuff. But I'll kind of skip over from there to where we went with it, which was that we found, what if we wanted to play with different layouts where you didn't have to position the nodes themselves, but there was an algorithm driving the kind of layout of the information.
So what are these maps are supposed to represent?
Just people's thinking. It's also collaborative in real time, so you could focus on this artifact at the same time as someone else, and just be kind of making connections, representing information, and exploring topics through a kind of what we would call kind of a structured or a semi-structured sense-making process, where you're kind of making externally your thinking and your thought process and your connections that you're making and stuff like that, and someone else is maybe doing that at the same time, and then you're kind of evolving this shared artifact towards something that you both look at it and you have a coherent.
So how much information you could have maybe on each node? Is it just a label of them, or
have this extra metadata like this, so things can have descriptions and links like this, and then they also have this type like a reference. This
how about on the links between them?
You can have a description and a.
Hey, Connor, if you sign in, we could sort of demo a little bit of the real-time stuff, just quick.
Yeah, I could do that. Well, maybe we maybe come back to it if we have time.
Yeah. Just a quick note, something I'm interested there with your spreadsheet stuff is if it does do SVG things, I'm very interested in how you could do a parametric sort of SVG of a card, and then something like that could be embedded in a like a metamaps node. But anyways, that's sort of something for some other time.
So this one, what we experimented with is conversation threads, as you might encounter like in Twitter, for example. Like where technically there's threads of information like this. This represents a thread. There's an initial tweet, and then there's a reply to this tweet visualized by this. But once you get lots of people making lots of replies, it becomes kind of untrackable, and you can't represent such a nonlinear structure linearly and
that's right.
Make it work. So then we started developing this, which was a way to represent these branches that occur in conversations.
So it's more a visualization and a graph exploration tool. And also a real-time
authoring. Like authoring information in this way. So I'll just start a new. And Robert,
and I say there is like an act as Connor or Robert, so it gives you like different perspectives based on the perspectives on the graph. Based on
thing that we're just playing with right now, where I could say that I'm Robert, so it just doesn't have an identity system, kind of a verified thing. It's just kind of a playground. But if I create, so I'll call this the starting point. And then, Robert, do you get this on your, do you have a kind of new updates thing?
I just saw the new updates and highlight new, so yeah.
Uh-huh. Nice.
Yeah, cool.
So that takes you to here, right?
Yep. And if I reply to it, so for now, I'm just running this locally on my machine. And something I don't think Connor pointed out is that the node data is just, I think, something like JSON that we're just writing straight to GitHub. So GitHub's sort of storing the conversation at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's all like hashed and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of a distributed, there's no kind of central database. It's just like a JSON file. And so after Robert made a change, then I get this new updates, highlight new, refresh this, and this is like hello from Rob. So we can kind of go through this and make all these different points, expanding on the conversation, taking it in different directions,
Right.
and I think if you create like a series of the part that's new, which I wanted to show Rob, is that if you create a series of updates, Robert, like a couple new ones. Actually, I haven't tested this, so this is the test.
Yeah, I'm just entering in some now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think would benefit the most from sort of a non-linear network-like conversation? Would it be one person, or would it be like a group of people? What setting would it be in? Yeah,
well, we imagine that there's the potential that a very large group of people could benefit from having a conversation this way, in the sense that typically threads online, they break down and lose their salience over time. So, for example, Reddit, I think of this as Reddit, you have all these nested comments, but eventually all of these comments, they die because they're too deeply nested that it becomes like everyone else has lost track of the rest of the conversation. So the idea is that potentially you could have a more robust conversation between more people if people could participate in such a forum as this rather than a conventional forum. Because there's one of the ideas is that I'll pause for a second. So Rob, see how there's still, so I refresh and it goes to what is Nima's app called, but there's still new updates.
Mm-hmm.
If I click on this, then it should go, okay, well that doesn't work so well, but then it takes me to I want parametric SVGs. Then it takes me to I want to talk about collective intelligence. Then it takes me to something like this, and there's no more new, highlight new. So that works perfectly. So yeah.
Cool.
So it kind of, and what I was thinking of doing next, Rob, was creating like a little dashboard panel that sits on the side and basically lists out those nodes explicitly for you to kind of see. So it's accumulating like a list, and then you could it's a little bit like an inbox in a sense. You could kind of like clear it without looking at it, or you could like go to it and then like focus on it or something. Like you could kind of dismiss it or like clear it or something like that.
Yeah, and I guess once we get into the problem of much larger scale conversations, maybe you don't want to follow everything on the whole map, or you can just sort of subscribe to one node and all of its children or something.
Absolutely, right.
Cool.
Well, speaking of graphs and conversations and thoughts that develop through mediums other than Twitter. There's also the federated wiki chat that I think is going to be continuing all the conversations we are having in a different way. So,
which time is it at? Is it right after this, or what's it? Oh, I see. I can't come because I have a work call, unfortunately, but I'm sure I'll hear about it from Rob and stuff. And Rob, there's one more thing that I want to show you, Rob, which is which I was developing this morning, and it's actually the bigger point of the little refactor that I did. Currently, it's work that I've got in a branch, but what it was, Rob, is this the dynamic reorganization of the content according to like what you select.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but it's too crazy right now. But it's kind of working. So
oh sweet.
So it dynamically reorganizes the thing according to like which node you're focusing on. So this really kind of highlights the custom algorithm that we were working on. Plus it animates in between things.
Yeah, and just for further context for Nima, the reason, because we already had some of this implemented on MetaMaps, but we sort of broke it out to sort of work on it in a more focused way. But the reason for the dynamicness is that we're hoping that you can sort of, at any moment when you're thinking of replying to something, you have in your view like a visual context of the like most proximate sort of part of the conversation that would relate to sort of where you're at. So you don't have to like go exploring, it sort of brings it into your view for you.
I think I follow the idea, and I think the model makes a lot of sense. And we should have some conversations sometime about this later, because some of the spreadsheet things that I do is also related to graphs. So yeah.
Cool. Well, I intend to sort of actually it won't be at this time each week, but I intend to have a call sort of to do pair coding and that sort of thing. Like that's the point of this call, to do it more regularly. So maybe I'll tie you into the calendar or scheduling for that, and you can come hang out here, and we'll chat about it some more. So yeah, I think I'll stop the recording for now, and because I know the next thing's starting and Connor's got to go, but thank you very much for sort of demoing and playing with us.